right, so here we are going to graph the point with polar coordinates, and then we're going to give two other polar representations of the point. So we're looking at 2 comma 3 pi over 4. Remember, this is r and this is theta. So when we graph this, we're going to graph the r and we're going to graph the angle. And you need to represent both. So remember, you're going to start with an angle array there that starts at this point, and it starts in standard position. And 3 pi over 4 is about halfway through the second part. So think about, you can still kind of think about the unit circle if you're understanding that part of it. Remember, polars graph around this way, but in circles. But we are looking at, so this would be 90, and this would be another 45 over. So something like that. We're going to actually draw the angle, which is 3 pi over 4, to represent it, so we know what it is. And we don't actually put an arrow here. We're going to put a dot to show that it ends there. And the 2 is going to be graphed by putting a hash mark, so that we see that we have 1, 2. That's how we know that it is a polar. And this up here should not be an arrow. It should be a dot, because it doesn't continue. This over here, we're going to have an arrow because it's the ray, but this you'll end with a dot. Now, if we want to do two other polar representations, the first thing we're looking at usually is going to be an r greater than 0, so it's r that's positive. We are starting with a positive angle, or a positive r, so we're looking at keeping that. And what we're going to do is think about coterminating. To hit this again, we would go around 2 pi because of where we're going in a complete circle there. So we're doing 3 pi over 4 plus 2 pi. We need to do a common denominator, so this would be 2 comma 3 pi over 4, and 2 pi with a common denominator would be 8 pi over 4. So 8 plus 3 is going to get us 11 pi over 4. So this would be the answer to a positive one. Now, to r less than 0, which means we've got a negative r, remember the way the r's go is they go from here, and then the negative r's would go this way. So if our negative r goes this way, that means we're only a pi difference from where we're at. So what you're going to do is add pi. So we'd end up with negative 2 and then 3 pi over 4 plus pi. So negative 2, 3 pi over 4 plus 4 pi over 4 will get us negative 2. 3 plus 4 will get us 7 pi over 4. Now you can also subtract 2 pi. You could subtract pi to get your answers. And also pay attention, if you start out with a negative r, if we start already with a negative r, you would actually add 2 pi to get back around to that spot. And then to do your r, the positive, you would add the pi. So it depends on what you start with to which one you're adding the 2 pi and which one you're adding the pi. But because we started with a positive 2, we are adding the 2 pi to that, and then the pi to get it to the negative side. And that's all you need to do on graphing those. Put a dot and make the hash marks. If I had 3 here, I would do divide this into thirds. If I have a 4 for my r, I divide it into fourths. So this, I can look at the representation of what the r is by how many spaces there are.